Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Boks. Rassie Erasmus has officially named his side to face England this weekend. And the big news is no bomb squad, a 5-3 split, making it quite common that when the Springboks place England, they generally seem to go to the 5-3 split, and not changing that this week. And a very new look team. Now, Rassie Erasmus has given a press conference and kind of explained why he's made his changes, why he's gone with a 5-3 split. He actually went into a bit of detail about the England game plan, for example, what they're expecting, as well as some of the key changes for this weekend. Before we get back into what he said, for example, let's start explaining why we've gone with the 6-2, with the 5-3 rather than a 6-2 or 7-1 and the likes. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so we've gone with a very strong starting pack. Wilco Louw, by the way, getting a start back in the mix for the first time since about 2019, and will start against England alongside Oxenchair and Bongi Iminambi Archiesname, and also getting a start this weekend. Now, the big thing that Rassie Erasmus emphasized during his press conference is the fact that it is a 6-day turnaround for the Boks. Now, if you're in an elite environment, for example, something that you continuously learn and you hear about is recovery and how long it takes to aptly recover from a game. And apparently, basically the concept is that a day is absolutely massive. The difference in a day, for example, is, those final 2, 3, 4% in a game, which can be the difference between winning and losing. And so Rassie Erasmus basically said that they had basically picked the back line for Scotland, for England, almost sort of before Scotland type of thing. They had already decided that they were going to pick two different backlines, and they are completely two different backlines. No backline player from last weekend is starting, and the only players that started last weekend in the pack that are starting this weekend are Oxenchair, Bongi Iminambi, and Eben Etzebeth. So 12 changes to the lineup. A lot of it is about freshness. It's about making sure the players are ready to go come Saturday, and the only players who are starting the Boks are Bongi Iminambi, Oxenchair, Eben Etzebeth. Chances are they probably might not even play next week, but those are players who've been playing throughout the season, are fully match fit, for example, and up to sort of the task. So a big thing as well, we sort of spoke about the England game plan, the fact that, Steve Borthwick's side generally do kick a lot and kick to contest and to try and sort of create the scraps and those sort of moments and sort of create fringe moments. And he spoke about the fact that in the past, the way they defend, the way that they pepper the backline with kicks and the likes, is that it's a very tiring team to play against, and it's quite easy to burn out against England. And that's where he spoke about the fact that we've got a new backline. He said, and we have to have a 5-3. He spoke about the fact that it is, from a tactical perspective, playing against England, an area where backline players can often get quite tired and they need to have options over them. And this is why it's quite interesting. As the world champions, the best team in the world, how much do you pick your best team versus how much do you pick a team for the opponent you're playing against? And I think what makes the teams the best in the world is when you find that sort of middle ground, that certain amount of, right, well, it's this team, so we need to adjust slightly, but at the end of the day, we are the best team in the world for a good reason. We don't want to move away from what has made us that best team in the world. So I think there's a bit of a combination. We've gone with, it's basically our strongest side. And I think you probably find that they would have looked ahead to this England game. They would have seen the fact that it's a 6-day turnaround, and they would have said, right, we need to have this team for England, therefore what team we're going to have against Scotland. Because in theory, this is our most difficult game. On the rankings these days, England might slip down if they beat us this weekend, if Scotland were to win, for example, if England were to lose and Scotland were to win. But this is the big test at the end of the day. There's a bigger rivalry when it comes to England. They are higher in the rankings, for example. Most recently we played them last year. It was a 1-point win. So there's a lot riding on this game. And as such, they probably would have picked pretty much a 23 versus England and then kind of worked their way backwards and gone, right, now who do we pick against Scotland, for example? Because that's how this team operate, or the coaching staff operate. They will plan the entire match tour. They're not going to sit there and go, right, this is team one. And then after the game, they go, right, who are we selecting for team two? They have a pretty steady plan for the entire Autumn Nations series. So the big selections, obviously, Wilco Louw at 3, which I think is a great selection. I think that he's going to give Ellis Genge a really tough time this weekend. We're assuming Ellis Genge does start for England, who I don't expect to change too much. In fact, it'll be very interesting to see what changes they do make, if any, for their clash this weekend. Coming off the back of 2 losses would indicate that maybe changes are required, but it was a reasonable performance against New Zealand, for example, where maybe on a better day, where they were more accurate, they could have won, and had good moments against Australia. Now, the big thing for the Springboks is to navigate the kicking game, and I think we will also kick ourselves quite a lot this weekend, especially with the changing rules in terms of about how you protect the receiver, for example. And if you change your lane or slow it down, you'll get penalized for obstructing the chaser. So that perspective, it's going to be very interesting to see how we use an athlete Rassie, who this year has been very good under the high ball. How Mandela will kick off 10. How Grant Williams might kick off 9. Box kicking was not one of Grant Williams' initial strengths. It's something he's had to really add to his game as he sort of played. He's become very good at it, but it's not something he was sort of naturally when he came through, a big part of his game. And I think the main thing is that we've got a pack that should give front football to Mandela. Now, what we saw from last week with Australia is that there is space on the fringes of this English side. If you can go wide, you can get around this England defence. And if you can create a bit of chaos, for example, you can kind of fracture that England rush defence, create gaps. And if there's ever someone who, if England's defensive effort is not 100% on point and there are gaps, to exploit those gaps, Mandela is your guy. And I think that's what they've gone with. They've looked at England, the rush defence, and the fact that when it's on song, it's very difficult to get past. But if you can create scenarios where the defence isn't quite lined up, like Will Jordan coming on the inside from Beauden Barrett past Ellis Genge, that becomes matchups where you can kind of create those situations. And Mandela is very good at being able to identify those spaces, those opportunities, and put the right people into the mix. But at the same time, if things are going badly, if they do come with a very physical game and we might not be coping physically, for example, or even just in the loose being sort of moved around a lot, we can then put on a Andre Pollard and go to a far more tactical type of arm wrestle sort of game plan where we can kick quite deep, for example, or we can kick more contestables, but try and get the forwards moving a little bit less and say them, for example, the likes of the scrums where you can try and win scrum penalties, knock them over for the threes. So I think the main thing, and Rassie Erasmus spoke about this, the fact that they've been developing team depth, not only from a player personnel point of view, but the individual players being able to play in different positions and making themselves quite versatile. And that makes it obviously very much easier to sort of implement different game plans. In terms of something's not working, you can make that change. You can, change your tactics slightly. You can stop doing something, start doing something more. And that way, I think if you look at this 23, there's a large amount of adaptability, both within the different types of players they can bring on, but even the players themselves in terms of how you can change things. You can put a 100 Pollard at 10, Liebach at 12,